early 1980s, downtown Boca was practically empty, a struggling mall, vacant lots, and little to draw people in. Then came Mizner Park, and everything changed.
When Mizner Park was ultimately developed was in the late 80s, but in the early 80s, there was just absolutely no reason to want to be in downtown Boca Raton. And the idea behind Mizner Park was to create a catalyst that would be a great public space, but also spur investment throughout the balance of the downtown.
Before Boca's downtown could be reimagined, it needed a plan and someone to lead it. George Camejo started as head of Boca Raton's Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, and he quickly became a driving force behind the city's downtown revival.
The first time I came to Boca Raton, I was in college, and a friend of mine in college used to vacation with his family in Boca Raton, and he invited me one evening to come have dinner with him and his family at the Boca Raton Resort and Claim, and I was in awe. It was, I get goosebumps still thinking about that, because it was just so impressive.
Did you think this was how the other half lives? Did you feel like...
for sure. It was overwhelming. And so a few years later, I graduated from college, and I'm looking through the ads, and I see an opening for a planning assistant. And I came and applied, and I got the job.
When did you move to the CRA?
It was in 1985. I was a city planner for the city, and I was assigned to the CRA as the redevelopment planner.
What was in that area before we developed that? What did it look like?
It was the old Boca Mall. And the Boca Mall was never very successful. The drainage was horrible, and any kind of a rainstorm, up to 3 feet of water, would pond for hours. Luckily, because of the good percolation in the beach sand that we have throughout the coast, the water would eventually subside. But it was, there was just no reason to want to be there. And the good news was that it was 30 acres of contiguously owned property.
The city focused on redeveloping this area. Mizner Park was to become more than just an upscale mall. It was a statement, a bold, sweeping center that transformed downtown Boca Raton into a pedestrian-friendly, Mediterranean-inspired destination. Inspired by the architecture of Addison Mizner, the project was designed to bring new life to a dormant urban core with shops, cafes, and public spaces that reflected the city's new identity.
And it was designed and laid out as the Piazza Navona in Italy, in Rome. And so the dimensions, the spacing, the distances, the business are intentionally laid out like the Piazza Navona.
Was it controversial?
Extremely.
Why?
Well, I think fundamentally it's fear of the unknown. For people, what are the first things to go up? Or the parking garages and the steel of the buildings that were going to ultimately front on the center space, but effectively have their back to Federal Highway. Back then, that was blasphemous. People were outraged.
And so the people on the outside didn't like the look of what it was going to look like for them?
Well, they didn't know what was coming. I mean, if we could have, taken a helicopter and lowered Mizner Park overnight, people would have gone, wow. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. And so when the construction started, like I'm saying, it was, oh my gosh, what has that CRA done?
So you're sitting on your desk and you're hearing the community
Right,
get upset.
right. They were not happy about anything. So not only did they want to get rid of me, but they basically set it up as a public referendum to dismiss the appointed CRA board and turn those duties to the elected officials, the mayor and city council. The headline, and what was jokingly referred to as the local mullet wrap, the headline was, Cameo must go.
So did it work? Did Cameo go?
No, the Cameo stayed, and the duties and responsibilities of the appointed CRA board were turned over to the city council, and the city council retained me as the CRA director back then. But it broke my heart that the people that really, dedicated heart and soul to trying to make it happen were removed from service overnight, literally.
The plans would transform not only the Mizner area, but the face of Boca Raton itself.
When you came on board in 1981, what did Boca look like?
There wasn't much here. I mean, you would literally throw a bowling ball down almost any street. And there were little treasures like Woolies, grocery store, and Royal Palm Plaza. Bill Woolley was just an amazing entrepreneur, a great store. People from around the community would come and shop there. But as far as like the Boca Mall site, where Mizner now sits, there was no reason to be there. In fact, one of the challenges that we faced with Mizner Park in the idea of incorporating residential as an element was that there was no residential in the downtown other than, I think it was a total of 63 units scattered along the boundary of what was the redevelopment area. So when we opened phase one in 1990, there was 136 rental units available. Some were over the office, and some were facing Mizner Boulevard in townhouses. And they sold or they rented like hotcakes. I mean, it was occupied almost instantly.
Now, if you go north of Mizner, what was there along?
It's actually along US 1, there was always some commercial activity, like out of the Fifth Avenue shops. Publix was there back then. They're still there today. I mean, it wasn't as attractive as it is today. There's been investment over the years, but it was a successful shopping center. I don't want to say as it is today, but clearly, a grocery store in the community like that, it is always going to be a popular destination.
Also along Route 1, Pearl City, the only area where African Americans were permitted to buy homes. It was always recognized as an important part of the Boca community, and out of respect for its history, it was left mostly alone.
In Pearl City, I think it was always viewed more delicately because you did not want to have that neighborhood completely change and bring in an entire, new investment and configuration. The expectation by some that, certain houses in the original African American neighborhood should be, preserved and protected. Well, the owners of those properties that are the original owners may have other ideas. And so it's that, again, delicate balance of how do you, try to protect that neighborhood, but still not depriving those owners of the same rights that any other owner in Boca Raton would have to either convince, sell, or do whatever they believe is right.
The plan for Boca revolutionized urban design.
The original redevelopment plan was done in 1982. And so at that time, a lot of the planning was focused on the need for additional parking. No, parking is an important element of any successful commercial, public-private destination. However, it is not the driver that's going to get you to go there. I mean, I don't know of any great city that I've ever been to where I'm going because there's great parking. In fact, it's just the opposite. While these flawed strategies based on parking were being put into motion, Town Center announced their opening, I think around 1982. It wasn't a coincidence that the city realized that something had to be done, for saving downtown, because the commerce was now going west. And so with Mizner Park, we changed that significantly by, as I described it, the first glass in the pot that would have public-private activity.
Mizner Park officially opened on January 11, 1991, demonstrating for the first time how retail, office, and residential space could all exist together. It transformed a blighted area into a vibrant, mixed-use space, successfully balancing growth and activity without destroying Boca's small-town charm.
And it was hard for you to balance those things?
Well, I think it's hard for developers to balance those things, because in the end, it's got to make economic sense, and that's the challenge. How do you make all that happen in a way that satisfies the public's desire for functional and attractive open space, but at the same time being mindful of the need to have it make economic sense?
Well, you seem to have succeeded. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we, Boca Raton, have succeeded, and the challenge is to keep around the ball and continue.